What is up, folks? That is right. It is another high-tech podcast episode. Whoop whoop. That's right. I regret the whoop whoop. I gotta be honest.
It was different.
It was a whole vibe. It was a thing. Not me. I am Josh, one of the hosts of the High-Tech Podcast, and that other sultry voice you heard is my fellow host, Will Illingworth. What's up, Will? How you doing, man?
Another day in paradise. We're getting it done. We're doing the work.
Yeah.
We're finally tackling tasks that have been sitting for 2 months. You know, we're good.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great. You all should be excited for 2025 of the High Tech Podcast because we just came up with a hilariously awesome idea that we're going to be doing in the new year. And I'm not going to tell you anything else other than food might be involved and we might build something at Will's house. That's all I'm saying. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Not both at the same time. We're not crazy. But anyway. Well, who knows? Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, welcome to the High Tech Podcast brought to you by Harness Tech, where we talk about technology, learning and development, productivity, nerd things, sometimes our personal lives, and occasionally what food we like. I don't know. Whatever else we like to do in here. I hate that quite a lot, actually.
But have you ever had a sushi burrito? Because
I haven't. You know, I'm not a big burrito person either. You know, like that's.
I just doubled down on the things you don't like.
Yeah, I know you don't like pickles, and I know you don't like pizza. But have you ever had a pickle pizza?
Pickle pizza? Actually, have you ever had pickle pizza? Because
is that a thing? That sounds disastrous.
At the fridge, yeah, they've got a pickle pizza.
Oh, they got a pickle pizza, really? Oh,
yeah, it's great.
Their tomato pie is really good. I really like. Anyway, sorry, that's a complete aside. Welcome to the High Tech Podcast, brought to you by Harness Tech. We're super happy you're joining us this week. Before we get into things, just a few reminders. If you're new to the High Tech Podcast or you have ignored us every time you've listened to the episode and refused to do it, make sure to subscribe and follow us on the socials and on YouTube and anywhere else you find podcasts. You can find us at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod because we're cheap and slow to getting handles. So there are two. Make sure to check those out and you can find them. Reminder, you can also reach out to us at inbox@hightechpod.us. Do you have a question? Do you have a thought? Do you know a great place to get pickle pizza? Any of those options, you can let us know at inbox@hightechpod.us. If you'd like to be on the podcast, that's also a place you can hit us up. So we have apps, but also friends and teachers and educators and professionals. So make sure to hit us up there if you'd like to be on the podcast. We love having new friends join the podcast. Also a reminder, we are on the interwebs at hightechpod.us. That is our website. Every episode comes with a fun episode page and a secret scavenger hunt. That's incorrect. I just lied. That's not true. That'd be a cool idea though.
Could you imagine?
Sure. Maybe I could jump on that.
That's a ChatGPT thing. We could like point GPT at our website and be like, make a scavenger hunt out, but then we'd have to deliver it somehow. So
yeah, not impossible. You know, it's an idea, that's for sure, that I don't currently do. But you can find other fun things at our website, like all the tools we talk about, and fun guests and things you can find more information over there as well. Okay. There's the spiel. There's the whole thing. And I also just realized something. This is our second Christmas episode. Okay, we already did one, and I realized I forgot a thing, and so did you, Will. Did you bring it?
I forget. Nothing, my friend.
I put mine on.
Nothing gets forgotten.
If you're just listening, Will and I are putting on our Christmas hats that we've been wearing for most of the Christmas episodes. Although, fun fact, the last Christmas episode that will be coming up after this one, we recorded before all the other ones. So I didn't know I had this hat yet. So I don't wear my hat, but Will wears his, I believe, in that episode. So there's your fun fact. Anyway.
This is proving difficult to wear over headphones.
Wearing it over headphones.
Yeah,
it's a look for sure. It's a thing. It's like a vibe.
I look like a Rasta, not in a bad way, but I like actually
that or like a weird like skater character from like a skater video game from the early 2000s. You know what I mean?
He was a skater boy. He said, "See you later, boy." No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't sing.
Yeah, no, I regretted you doing that immediately. I got to be honest. Anyway. It's almost Christmas. Amazing. As you're listening to this episode, it will be almost Christmas, right? Something like that. Yeah, early December. Look at that. Yep. That's fun. So we are close to the end of our episodes for the year, but don't fret or worry or I don't know, whatever else other words mean for that.
Scurry it out.
we still have one more episode of the High Tech Podcast before we end for the year, and you will not want to miss next week's episode. It is going to be awesome. Yeah, you do not want to miss that one. But this week, we're here. We're not there yet. So stop talking about the future, Josh. This is the present.
I really wish we had the Spaceballs bit memorized and like down pat about like when is then? Is then now? Now is then. No, then is now. You know that whole bit?
See, speaking as someone who every human being in the entire universe walks up to me and goes,
the sports be with you.
The sports be with you. Like, have you ever heard of that movie? I gotta be honest, Will, I have not watched Spaceballs in quite a long time. I don't remember much of Spaceballs.
It's so funny. We should. That's that. There we go. High Tech Podcast. Just watch that. Like we'll watch ourselves watching that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. That seems totally right.
Style.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. If it's the actor from Transformers and Holes can do it, we can do it. What's his name?
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf. There we go. Shia LaBeouf. I couldn't remember his name. Anyway, this week we are talking about teaching tech well, and here's a couple reasons why. One, Will and I have taught a lot of tech, so it's kind of our thing. I don't know if you've looked at the podcast title, but Will and I know what technology is. That's for sure. And we've taught it a good bit. We've done some teaching, that's for sure. So we have some thoughts on how to teach it well with some lessons learned. And we think these lessons would be helpful for you because most of us who are millennials or younger have to teach our parents or grandparents some kind of new technology.
Or aunts.
During the holidays. Oh, sorry. You're more gracious than I am. If you're not my immediate family, I don't teach technology. I'm sorry. So it's a thing, around the holidays. So we thought, what better way to make your holidays great than to give you some sage advice on how to teach tech well, So that's the type of idea. With that said, though, I'm going to pass it off to Will because Will has promised a great story to bring us in on this one.
I never said great. I just said I had a story.
Disagree. Well, the fact that you said you had a story, it translates to me great because you usually beforehand don't go, I have a story. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, to situate this, like Josh and I are going to probably have dozens and dozens of stories we can't touch tonight because we've just been working this for so long, like he said. We are trying to situate this a little bit just in family time, right? Like, of course, you could apply the stuff we're talking about to professional purposes. That's all Josh and I have done.
Yeah, but we don't talk about professionalism while wearing Christmas hats.
No, it's all about cheer tonight.
For sure, yeah.
The very first memory I have of trying to help someone learn technology, that's actually what the story is. It's a little heartwarming. It's not necessarily uproariously laughing.
Now I feel like I need a fire or something around me, or
I need a little fire app or something like that. You go like pull something up on your phone.
Yeah. Whereas, well, you just keep telling your story, buddy. I got this covered. Don't you
worry. In my youth, my grandfather at one point hired me to transcribe his journals, and he gave them all to me, and it was great. But to be honest, I had such a hard time reading his handwriting that I literally at one point was like, Bob, you need to do this yourself. Like, I can't read your writing. I don't know what you wrote. But he's like, well, I don't know how to use a computer. I'm not going to learn how to use a computer. I'm too old for computers, he said. So I sat down with him. I was like, no, Bob, I'll teach you. And that's what I told my grandfather. But like, I swear. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. What a champ.
The cozy vibes going right now. That's what we got.
What a champ. Cut the audio, though, so we don't get a YouTube.
Oh, are you hearing the audio?
Hear it. Oh, yeah, oops. I can.
How do I make that stop? Let's go hit that. Let's go hit that button again. And let's undo.
Oh. Hopefully YouTube doesn't shadow ban us or something.
How's that? How's that?
There we go. Great. Well done. Right? Beautiful. Yeah. Wow. Just
good. That's my bad. I gotta be honest. I felt so cool. I hit a button on my Stream Deck and everything, and like it was felt like a pro. And then I ended up sharing Fire audio. Anyway, continue.
I don't know.
Story.
We might just do the rest of the episode like this because, frankly, I love it. The only other one though is we should start rotating. Okay, so I'll stop that. Go back to the story. So
yeah, continue story.
Grandfather's like, no, like I can't learn computers. I'm like, no, Bob, I'm gonna teach you. You're gonna have to write these yourself. So of course, anybody he could, look at a keyboard, he could see the letters and touch the letters. Like he wasn't too scared of that. But he couldn't figure out how to use computers. It's like, it's not that bad, I promise. And I try to sit down with him. He's telling me, he's like, I don't like this. I don't know how to use it. It doesn't work for me. And I'll tell you, the very first thing he did was pick up the mouse backwards. And I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. I am a child. And I was like, no, I got this. I'm going to help Bob. I'm going to help him. And then he picks the mouse up backwards. I'm like, no, Bob, you got to hold it this way. He's like, well, I don't know. And then he starts to use it. And he just could not track the mouse visually on screen and use the mouse. And I was sitting there trying probably for 30 minutes. Like, no, when you do this, you got to look that way. If you do this, I'm trying to teach this man how to use a mouse. And I lost. I gave up. That's the moral of the story. I did not teach him how to use a computer. He never learned. And that was
not heartwarming at all. That's a horrible ending.
My first failure, but it was something that taught me, like, I felt like it was important for him to learn, and I wanted to have that, like, that heartfeltness of it. But 30 minutes of trying to use the mouse, and I gave up. So, folks, this Christmas season, if somebody gets a new tech tool you're trying to help them with, it's not as bad as that, hopefully. But it's just a great memory that I have of trying to do it, trying to wrestle with it, and it not working out so well. Now, with a hiccup behind us, some of the things we actually want to talk about though are like how to actually help somebody like that. Like today, I was a child, folks. I might have been 10. I might have been 11. Today, I have tools, I have techniques, I have ideas, I have ways that I would change my method to help him. So, thankfully, Josh and I wrote a few down, but as I got to take first story, I'm going to give Josh a gift, very beautiful gift here of the first method. What's one way you help others when trying to teach them something? If it's a new iPad, if it's how to get their email address, if it's how to remember their password, for instance.
We both did it. That's funny. I need to get rid of the fireplace so that I can open my notes. I actually have notes. That's why I took the fireplace away. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different things, right? So like obviously I don't have quite as heartwarming as a story as Will. I taught my grandfather how to use a mouse, and he just remembered automatically. No, I'm just joking. I've never done any of that. But I think there's a couple things with technology that's key, right? Will and I have all worked with people who were another level of tech challenge. They're wonderful people, right? But another level of tech challenge where like they don't know where the mouse is. My favorite was hit the refresh button, and somebody was like, "What's a refresh button?" And that was terrifying. There's a lot of different things, right? So I think the first thing that's key for me is slow down and take time when either explaining or training or however you're going to be doing. Like I like to call this sliver of learning idea, right? Yeah. Which is very hard to say, so I need to come up with a different name. But it's this idea of like breaking things down into smaller steps. I think Will and I's broad experience has shown when people are creating things to train people, or they're trying to train people on technology, they often miss steps or things in their head that they just kind of naturally do. Like Will and I just had this with a client we were working on at one point. He would lay out stuff that we were going to do in tutorials, and he would say like 2 sentences worth of stuff that was like 12 different steps. But to him, that was like one step. But it wasn't one step. There was technically, for somebody who didn't know the tool, and especially for those who are tech challenged, there's a lot of different things they have to remember to do. So slowing down is a big deal. And I've not done this well before, right? I've led trainings where I moved way too fast. I was just talking through things. And I think the more I learn to slow down, to to give them a chance to do the thing I tell them to do, right? And then also, this is one thing that I think Will does. Not one thing. You do lots of things well. Well, that may sound like you only do one thing well.
Might be true.
Yeah. It's just having grace and patience with them as they're going, right? Especially those who don't know technology well. You've got to remember that at the end of the day, you really have a language that other people don't have. Like when you know how to do something with technology that somebody else doesn't know how to do, essentially you're trying to teach them a language they don't have. And so imagine it's like whoever you're teaching has walked into a country where everybody else speaks the language and you're trying to teach them how to walk out the door, walk to a store, buy food, come back, and do all of that while reading the signs, talking to the people. Like that's essentially what technology teaching is like, right? Is you're trying to teach them how to navigate an environment that they usually, especially the ones who don't know tech well, are going to struggle with, right? So slowing down, making sure to make those notes. Those were the notes I would give. Like a big part of my job for a while was reviewing people who were creating guidance for people on technology training. And constantly my feedback was always like, you need to break this up. This is like 4 different steps. You need to break this up into smaller chunks for the learner. So I think that's a big thing, is like chunking things out, slivering things out into smaller learning, whether that's you talking at them at Christmas or it's actually needing to train someone for a professional setting or whatever that may be. I think there's a lot of different ways to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we jokingly, but it's mostly serious, wrote down a single line when we came up with this episode idea, and it says, grace, patience, and a sip of bourbon. The bourbon is optional if you are sober. Feel free to skip the sip. But when it comes to tech, and like Josh said, my background's in English language instruction. So when it comes to language instruction, it's just patience. These things do not come quickly. People are trying to learn a large body of knowledge, typically through a pinholes perspective. Like they're looking at an iPhone going, how do I make a call? I need to make a call. They want to know one discrete thing. And you're like, well, but I need to teach you how to unlock the phone first. No, but I need to make a call. I understand that, but we have to get you in the phone first. Okay. And then, well, you get them in the phone. Now they're like, all right, so where's the call button? Well, we got to talk about apps. You need to know what an app is, because the phone's app is its own thing. No, I just want to make a call, right? Like I've been in those kinds of loops with people, not about iPhones necessarily, but like around learning management systems, grade books, discussion forums. I just want to X. They get this really myopic or laser focused attitude about like, I just need this thing. Unfortunately, to Josh's point, I actually need to teach you, how to say words, how to pronounce letters, how to read. There's so much more that has to go into you going to the grocery store and buying food in another country and coming back than just giving you the word for how can I buy this, or what, how much money does this cost. So when it comes to the grace and patience part, part of that connects again to what Josh was saying about time. I've been in a couple instances where like some of my greatest successes with some of the least technically inclined people took semesters of effort. And Josh and I were just talking off air. We won't say names or anything, but we're just talking about somebody that we have both experienced in that, where it's now probably, I can't even math here very quickly or very well.
Since you've been not there?
It's been at least 6 years since I've spoken to this person and helped this person. And today, this person is self-sufficient. But it wasn't even just Josh coming in and fixing it. Like Josh came in and worked with somebody else and worked. Both of them worked with this person, and both of them put time into it. And both of them were patient. And across 3 of us, 3 people had to take time and be patient and make efforts and give grace and create tutorials to give this person the skills they needed to do the work that they were doing on their own. Sometimes, like an iPhone, here, just type in the number, click this little phone looking icon, and now you can call people. Sometimes that's enough. and mom or grandpa is finally happy and satisfied. But you have to be patient. I worked with a faculty member once who said she would never use the learning management system, but she was being required to do grades. So that one semester, I helped her set up just categories so she could plug the grades in manually. She came to me the next semester and said, well, can I like upload my syllabus and maybe some like assignments? Yeah, of course. And another semester, after 3 or 4 semesters, I finally had her using most of her entire course page, even though when she first came to me, she said she'd never use it. She was only doing what she was required to. Big points here just to patience, grace, and for our sakes, on the receiving end, a sip of bourbon can help you through the toughest spot.
Well, when I wasn't at work, like this is
yeah. Later that night,
work examples, there were not. It's not so. Yeah, no. And the next principle I would say is there's one honestly that's probably more important and useful, but I think this one's important to say right now. Don't. Okay, hold on. Will you zoom in on you? I can't zoom in on me. I don't know how to do it.
I don't have
come here for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Don't do it for them. Okay, I want everybody to say it with me. Hey, hold on. I'm gonna make sure that we have this down. Just give me 1 second. Don't do it for them. Okay, one more time. Don't
those in the back now.
Do it for them. Okay. So here's the common mistake I see somebody make when they're training somebody on technology. Whether it's a family member at Christmas, or it's in a work setting or a coworker or whatever it may be, they inevitably ask, how do I do this? Right? How do I take a picture on my phone? How do I call someone? How do I open Excel? Yes, I have gotten that question before. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people will go, oh, just do this. And they like do it for them. They'll go and click to it and they'll show them what they're doing and then they walk away. Right. And I've seen this on the family side too. Right. Oh, you just unlock the phone. You do this, blah, 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 blah. Here's your phone. Cool. You take a picture. You know what that person, the second you started doing it for them, did? They stopped paying attention to what you were doing because they no longer had to do it themselves. Right. And so my experience has been that's usually where people think they've taught somebody something because they showed them how to do it, but the person didn't actually learn it because they didn't have to do it themselves, right? They didn't have to click the path. They didn't have to do the thing, right? Whatever it may be. And so don't do it for them. For the love of all that is holy, don't do it, okay? Now I have one of my stories, and here's what you're going to learn, okay? Will's stories are much nicer, okay? Josh's stories are meaner because Will and I have slightly different tactics to this. Both successful, I will point out. Will is also very successful in what he does, and honestly, people like him better. So, who really won that? I don't know, but
amazing. But like to the point of the person we were talking about, you successfully got him over the line, and I didn't.
Yeah. So I have a tendency in technical training, especially to definitely not do it for them. And if you ask me to do it for you, that I'm even gonna more not do it for you. It's like an internal reaction. Resistance. Okay. And there was this person that she would go unnamed. She was a wonderful person. I very much liked her, but she would call all the time and email all the time about stuff she was trying to do in her courses and things she was doing. And inevitably, every conversation would start with, here's what I'm trying to do. Okay, well, you need to do this, this, and this. And I had guides on them because I had created them by that point. And it was like, here's some resources on stuff. And I was like, I'll be happy to walk you through how to do it. Right. And this was on Zoom. And inevitably, every time she would go, well, can't you just do it for me? And I wouldn't. And it was not easy conversations, okay? Because these also weren't my family members, and they were quite annoyed that I wasn't doing it for them. And so, but She eventually, over time, learned how to do the things she was asking because she was required to do them herself. And she knew that if she called or emailed, we weren't just going to do it for her, and she was eventually going to learn how to do it. I think the same principle applies to family. I think it may sound mean, but if we actually want our family members to learn how to use technology, and you want your, whatever, grandfather or father or mother, or in Will's case, apparently he helps extended family because he has a heart.
A neighbor from 2 streets over.
Neighbor from 2 streets over. I think it's important to, when you're explaining how to do something, have them do it while you walk them through it, right? So if I'm going to explain to someone how to add an assignment into their course, I'm going to have them be the one in control of their cursor or of their mouse or their iPad or whatever. And they are going to go ahead and do it while I'm explaining it to them, right? And I'll slow down, I'll pause. There's times where I'll ask, like, is that making sense? If they're not finding it, I lean in sometimes to the awkward silence while they find it, and I don't just keep telling them where to click because that's just going to frustrate them even more. Right? Just have patience with them, and I promise it'll eventually work out, right? And sometimes you'll be graced with the legendary man who will be infamous. I still don't know his name, but we still talk to him or talk about him to this day. You were not here for this. I was doing a training, and almost everybody in that training did not understand how to do what we were talking about, and it was quite brutal. Ooh. But there was one man, a hero, some say, in the front of the room with an iPad, who set up his entire course by himself while we were talking about it. He just was following step by step along on his iPad and set up his entire course. That man is a legend, really. He's gone on to be known as iPad Man because we never asked him his name.
Amazing.
Anyway, so that's fine. Any other thoughts, Will? Any other suggestions here out of that?
No, I mean, those are great. And I'll say, Josh and I have some riffs about who did and didn't, because generally there are times where I would do stuff for folks. Absolutely. There was kind of an ease to the work. There's kind of an ease to the work at times where it's like, given context and people and dispositions, I was more interested in the better relationship than whatever. But I also on Josh's side with this. Like, more often than not, my strategy was to have people do it for themselves. That's even better. Just the scroll across the bottom. And there you go. Folks, if you're just listening, you don't get to see Josh spamming us with his message on screen. Go over to YouTube, youtube.com/@hightechpodcast, and you'll be able to go watch our episode and see all this as well.
Yeah, you can see it all.
But no, I agree with Josh. I don't disagree with him. I do think it's the better strategy. Some folks wore me down. Sometimes it was absolutely a relational thing. I'll do it for them. Will, Josh says. So here's 2 parts, though, that I have to add to all of this. I think we've captured a lot of our ideas so far, but 2 parts I have to add to this. The first, and they're both about actually outsourcing, right? Because one of the issues is we are not scalable. If I was the human solving people's problems, I cannot solve everyone's problems. I cannot be there for every time something goes wrong, right? That's the point of training and training support. Like, if we can give someone else to do their own work, I don't need to be there next time. So the first point under this would be actually just simply teaching people to Google. Sometimes somebody comes to you, and I don't mean just Google, I'll clarify, but somebody comes to you that goes, Will, I need to make a phone call on my iPhone. Okay, you're asking me for, again, a discrete task. What I really want to do, though, is set you up to figure it out. Not only to Josh's point, like, do the steps yourselves, but I want you to be able to figure it out. So getting someone into the inquisitive mindset, getting someone to be curious about learning is a tactic. It's a strategy. Like, somebody comes to me, hey, I want to know how to make a phone call with my iPad. Okay, what do we already know? Do you know how to get into your phone? Do you know how to use texting? Do you need, get a baseline? Okay, sure. They can log in. Great. So why can't you get to your phone? Well, I don't know. I can't find it. Is it not on your home screen? I can't. Well, yeah, maybe it's there in the bottom, but if I click it, it doesn't make a call. Well, what does happen when you click it? Like this kind of process of being, I guess, Socratic, asking them questions, prompting them through it, getting them to think about it. When you start to find out where the breakdown is, though, it's like, oh, when I click on it, I don't see a dial pad, right? You're thinking about someone who is not used to a touch screen, not used to smartphones. They're used to picking up a phone and seeing a dial pad. Well, I know with my phone app on an Android, sometimes if I click to the wrong thing, it defaults to my most recent calls, or it defaults to my voicemail, or it defaults to other screens, right? It doesn't just default to the dial, the number page, right? So if you identify that that's the problem with the user, now the opportunity is, so what do you see? Well, I see a bunch of icons. I just don't see my numbers. What could you do to find the numbers? Could you Google it? You've asked me clearly. You're using one resource. I'm that, but what else could you do? Can you click around? Could you try something? I don't want to break it. You're not going to break your phone. You're going to be okay, right? Like helping people process all of this gets them into the practice of being inquisitive, asking questions themselves. You're modeling that behavior of being curious first and not just getting frustrated when they open the app and it's not seeing exactly what they expect to see. That's a very simple and relatable experience, maybe for some of us, especially with this upcoming holiday. You might get a grandparent with a new phone, but if it's a learning management system, if it's a piece of ed tech, if it's Notion, right? There are tons of resources on the internet. So maybe the first thing is not how to do the issue or how to solve the issue on the phone, on the app, on the whatever, but how to look up the answer. And that's just as important of a task as getting folks comfortable with it. Now, teaching to Google isn't always the solution. Sometimes we need to go to whatever the site's website is and go to their support page. You got to teach people to find support and learn how to get help. I remember as a kid, my parents would have an issue with the phone. They'd have to take me with them to the phone store to get a solution because they get so frustrated every time they went to the phone store trying to talk to the phone guys, because the phone guys just want to sell them a new phone every time. It's like, no, I just need this fixed, or I'm not getting calls, or blah, blah, blah. So I'd have to go with them and translate. Like, Josh, I've been doing it since I was a kid. You can't just get kick me out of the saddle,
Yeah, I get it's deeply rooted. It makes
But the teaching to Google thing is its own practice, right? If we've got the answer, part of it is just helping them get closer to it themselves, or helping them figure out how to get to the answer themselves.
Yeah, I think the just-in-time resources is a big deal, and like again, Will and I are funnily walking this line of teaching family members in this episode, and also like at a professional level. I would say at a professional level, there's two different things I would recommend to you. Right, I hear a lot of times, especially people our age or younger, like having to constantly answer questions for other coworkers about how to use certain things in technology and things like that. I think thinking about how to produce just-in-time stuff is super helpful, right? So like the team I'm a part of, we have a practice, right? When people ask questions, if it's a question that somebody else is going to need to know, or that person's going to need to know on a regular basis, like we put it somewhere, right? So like we might write down what we did, and we have a knowledge base for our team, so we put that in there, right? Sometimes it's recorded video real quick, or like if I'm showing somebody how to do something on a Zoom session, I record it and we just upload the recording into the page in our knowledge base. Like we're always trying to document answers as much as possible, right? And I think that's also the same thing when helping people with tech on that end, whether it's creating a guide resource or we're just joking. Robin tells a story all the time that I think it was when she moved, or so she can correct me when she listens to this episode, that she created like a note card on how to like turn off and on the computer or something for her parents when she had like moved out or something or went to college. I forget the exact dynamic, but right. But like she created a just-in-time resource for a family member. That's the same thing. When you're teaching people how to use technology, I think at a scalable level, it's incredibly important to think about resources. And I know perception is different on those levels, right? Like people, I joke about this, but this is why people liked Will probably a little bit better at a personal level, because he actually like just helped or responded to them very personally each time. And there's quality to that. There's, I think, a fine line between that. when I came in, it was a different scenario, right? We had to be more scalable because we were getting more and more people and we were having to scale. So we created a whole documentation and guide system that we could point people to, and we just kept pointing people there, right? And while it might have annoyed some people that we weren't giving them a custom email response, they eventually went and read the guide and remembered that guide told them how to do it, and that guide helped them do it, right? In the just-in-time resource. I think it's even for training too. I will see people come up with tech training or things when they're onboarding new people at an organization or a team, and the immediate solution is, well, we'll just have a training and everybody will get it. Well, like, that's not, they're all going to forget half of what you say anyway. I remember just recently being in a training. It's not my idea. Recently in a training that was like a 2-hour training for a tool. Like, people weren't going to remember half of what was there. We should have invested way more time in creating resources than we did in writing the whole outline for that training. But like, that's a key. I think people are going to need stuff at the moment when they need it, and we can only retain so much. And so we just have to accept that. That humans can only retain so much in the moment. The just-in-time resources, I think, are super important when it comes to like training and resourcing people.
You kind of you opened a door I didn't expect to get to. So thank you, knocking on it and opening it. But like, something here though is a kind of a point that there is no one perfect method, and all methods have flaws. Like, the 2-hour training is too much. 2 hours too much. 30 minutes to 1 hour is my sweet spot if you're doing a live training. But some people will bank on the fact that a 2 hours required because we just can't get to everything, or there's too much to do, right? Like, that's always at the same time, a just-in-time resource does not typically, at least a discrete resource, does not have all the context. It doesn't have the bigger picture. Yeah, now you can build just-in-time resources in a sequential or scaffolded context. That's fine. You can build it to that. But like, every single one of these things, even these methods that we're talking about, Josh and I have done things that work and don't work, and there's kind of a majority or an 80-20 rule here that, like, it might work most of the time, and sometimes it just won't. That's okay. That's why, though, you host the hour training and you make the just-in-time resources. Mm-hmm. That's why you do a follow-up webinar. That's why you record it so people can watch later. That's why like, the idea of having multiple access points is important when you're trying to train people. Around the holidays, not as relevant. At a professional context, critical. You want to have videos. You want to have PDFs. You want to have an IORAD tool, something like that. You want to have the recording of a live session. You want to have live sessions, because if the problem is your folks are just not connecting with one of your resources, then you still don't want them knocking on your door every time. So you got to find the thing that does work for those people. Now, it does take a lot to build all of those things. So it's not typical that you're going to have every type or every modality for learning resources, but it's just the idea to consider there and keep in your mind, like, if one method didn't work, try another. It could be that you just got to follow up with another style that's going to land with a specific person or specific group of people. I've done tons. I know I've done hundreds of live training sessions, hundreds of hours of live training sessions, and I would probably bank on like 10 to 15% conversion rate. People who have been in my sessions, watched everything I did, and then became experts themselves. It's tough. Live training, even if people are doing it alongside of you, is still not going to work with everybody. And sometimes they get distracted. Sometimes they have to leave the room early. There's so many reasons why training doesn't just work perfectly. So got to kind of take all these ideas together and package them into one big little gift. My last bullet point, this is kind of just a joke, but it is a little bit serious. When all else fails, get someone else to do it. There's some truth to the fact that not every person, it's just as much as the modalities, right? Not every person is for everyone. So I've had a lot of people come to me because I'm welcoming, I'm open, I'm freely giving of my time, and people want to come to me. But at the same time, I can't help everybody. There have been people that I've turned away to IT or some other resource. I'm like, I can't deal with you. I had person. There you go. That's fair. That's real fair. Thank you. On screen, folks, is now scrolling. Get someone else to do it. Quote William Illingworth. I once had a person call in and tell me, I needed to stop doing something because it was controlling her printer. Like, nope, I am not dealing with that.
That's my favorite call ever. That's my favorite call.
I still have that voicemail. I have it saved. I listen to it when I'm in a dark place and I need to remind myself that. But like I was not going. I think I gave that person my boss. It's like I'm not talking to this person. It just they're not in the right mind. But we are not perfect. So put your ego aside. Recognize when help is needed that might be more different than you, and then the point is trying to help the person. So if they need different help, just get them to it, because it will be costly in time and effort for you to do something that's not going to work for the person you're trying to help.
Yeah, so I would agree. And I would say if you're looking for tools to help you train people on tech, probably not for your Christmas gifts, but that would be hilarious. I think the takeaway here is you do a 2-hour training with your uncle on the new iPhone you bought him.
Yes.
That's my takeaway. No,
and then let us know how it goes.
Two tools I really love for tech training. iRad, we've talked about it before in the podcast, but iRad is a fantastic tool that we've used. It's one of those tools where you can record yourself doing something, whether it's clicking on a website, creating a course, submitting something, buying all those Christmas gifts on Amazon, whatever you'd like to record yourself doing, and it'll actually turn it into an interactive tutorial. It's super useful. I've used it a bunch of times for one-off training stuff real quick. I just want to send somebody something real fast. iRad's great. Well, and I've also used it with clients to create fully interactive tutorial curriculums, essentially, for softwares. So it's a super useful tool. Another tool that I really love that's not like interactive tutorials, but it's great for just creating a quick video. We've talked about it as well on the podcast. Loom is a fantastic tool for this. I really do love using it. They have really cool AI features now that like auto title and describe the video for you while you're creating it. And you can even get it to create chapters automatically. It's a pretty slick tool, so you can check that out as well. Loom, those are great tools for usage. So yeah,
perfect.
Hope this helps you in your teaching needs over this Christmas. Let us know. Did you run a webinar with your uncle? That would be great to know if that's what happened.
Yeah. Always hit us up at hightechpod.us. Our website has all information, but you can email us directly, inbox@hightechpod.us, if you want to follow up and send us that Zoom webinar recording, because we would enjoy the laugh. All right, folks, this has been episode 176. Holy smokes, that's amazing. We have one more Christmas episode, and I promise you we have saved the best for last. Next week, we will be doing rating our best tech toys with Steve Miletto. Steve is a great friend of the podcast. He's been on many times. The worst part about him is that he's a Braves fan, and otherwise we love everything about him. We know him affectionately as the Golden Pipes. His voice was crafted for podcasting and radios. I just can't wait for you to hear this one, have a couple of laughs with us, and enjoy a great way to wind down the year. That'll be the last episode for 2024, last episode for this season of episodes, and then we'll be back in 2025. So, of course, we'll do a little bit more of that next episode, so you know what to expect in 2025. But we thank you, as always, for joining us. Always reminder to head over to the socials and things like that. Please do subscribe, like, share, comment, tweet, follow, all this stuff. Anything you do to interact with us in a social media context does help the podcast. It helps us reach more people. When you like someone else might see that you liked us, and they'll get a chance to listen to the pod and grow with us. So make sure to check all those things out. Of course, all of our stuff can always be found at hightechpod.us. All right, folks, this is a wrap on another week. Empowering minds.
Embracing tech.
Cheers.